Hey business students, welcome to week 7's overview. This week we're looking at real property, personal property, real property, patents, trademarks, leases, all the good stuff, and deeds. Can't forget about deeds. All right, let's look at ways that real property is managed and moved around. So property is defined by law as the right to possess, use, and then dispose of. If you own something, you get to dispose of it. Of course, under the protection of the law, so you have to dispose of it properly as well, I might add. So property is generally classified as personal property or real property. Now, personal property, generally considered movable, if you want to think about it like that, or tangible. It's something you can pick up, touch. They give the example of merchandise and livestock. In the business sense, property would be equipment, machinery, desks, chairs, that sort of thing, okay? So it may be intangible as well, like a patent or an invention, and we'll look at that in just a second. So how do you get real property or personal property? You purchase it, it's gifted to you. Some of you may have received inheritance from parents, whatnot. There's lost property. I know in our state there's a lost property site on the government website. You can go look at, find your name. Maybe something's been claimed in your name there. You just got to go get it. It does happen. So all kinds of ways you can acquire real or personal property. Let's talk about patents and trademarks, copyrights, all that sort of thing right now. So patents is an exclusive right to manufacture, sell an invention. And so patent and inventions be the best way to think about this. Something I've never done, applied for a patent. I've never really invented anything. So if you've done that, you understand the patent world. Most large companies have a whole patent division because they want to protect their inventions by their employees. So it's, like I said, you probably find that in larger companies. Trademarks, though, you find even in smaller companies. And it's like an exclusive, it's like your mark on your company. Interesting, look up T-Mobile. They trademarked the color magenta. Now, it doesn't mean nobody else can use it, but in terms of advertising with the color magenta, only they get to do it. Crazy, crazy times. Anyways, so yeah, the right to trademark derives from a proper mark, or it identifies you in the market space, and it must be unique and distinctive. This is our trademark. So I work for a U.S. staffing agency here in Michigan, and we have branches in Michigan and in Tennessee. So that is our registered trademark. Nobody else can use it. All right, copyrights. Again, copyrights are more tied to things that you might write or artwork. Like they say, intellectual works like books are copyrighted, and your textbook, for example, is copyrighted, and that sort of thing. But it does apply to music and that sort of thing. So, all right, let's go look at leases. And I'm sure most of you got some experience with leases. If unless you're living at home with mom or dad still, there's a landlord, there's a tenant, and then some of the terms would be like length of time, how much you're going to pay, what do you want, what does the place have to look like before you leave. There's a security deposit, there's the rent, and all that sort of thing. Now, the elements of our lease are pretty important. Make sure that there is what we would call factual information and listing the rights and duties of the landlord and tenant. Like, make sure the facts are correct, like address, how many people are allowed to stay there, what's the security deposit. Make sure you understand all the facts of the lease. The lease is a contract. It's a special kind of contract, but it is a contract. And both you and the landlord have rights. So check out terms of the lease. Like I said, the amount. When does the rent have to be paid, and where? How often does it have to be paid? Very important. Make sure that both you and the landlord sign the agreement. Gotta sign it. It's a very simple thing, but make sure you sign it. Usually the rights and duties which are described they're called covenants, and they're agreements that you're, as the tenant, if you're the tenant, things that you agree that you're going to do, and then also things that the landlord will do. Make sure you read your lease. If you're doing this for a business and you're acting as an agent for your employer, the principal, make sure you understand your leases. I read through our leases along with my boss, the president of the company. We each read leases to make sure we understand all the language in there. Because sometimes landlords will slip something in that you didn't anticipate. All right, let's look at the different tenant types. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but check it out in your book. There's tenancy for years, periodic, tenancy at will, and then sufferance. My grandfather, one of my grandfathers, never owned a home. So he was a tenant for his entire life, I guess. When he passed away, he stopped paying rent. That was his last month of payment. But anyways, he was a tenant for years and lived next door to the landlord, and they took good care of the house for him. He was a good tenant. All right, let's talk about deeds for just a moment. Quit claim deed. So yes, you can take possession, for example, of a house or a car on a quit claim deed. I would not recommend doing it unless you know really, really, really well the person that you're getting the quit claim deed from. People take possession of houses this way. And really what it says is that as soon as that title is signed over to you as a buyer, if you're the buyer, then the entire title and any of its faults go with the title to your possession. So it releases the seller from any further claims against the title or faults with the title. A slightly different version is a bargain and a sale deed. It's a deed that conveys interest that the seller has, promising the seller has done nothing to disturb the title. So it's kind of like a good faith deed, if you will. The seller says, hey, I cleared everything up. Here's the deed. Cost less. And I would say, too, the quit claim deed is very cheap to do. However, I would advise this if you're buying a house, the warranty deed. And that's what most real estate transactions use. If you've bought a house, you've done a form of a deed called a warranty deed. And it guarantees that the title is clear and that if there are any interest that the current owner or the seller may have, it calls it out. Like, for example, if there's a lien on it. Okay, so I would advise doing a warranty deed unless you know really, really well the person you're buying the house from. All right, or whatever it is that you're buying. All right, that's week 7's overview. Make sure you catch the devotional this week. Discussion questions, only 2 more weeks to go, folks. And then quizzes are due Sunday night. It is not too early to be looking at week 8's assignment, which will be a one-on-one with me about something interesting in the class. But read the assignment for week 8. It's a one-on-one presentation, live. We do it live. So you can do it. All right. Remember, God is on his throne. He's always been there, and he's always going to be.